Today I wanted to talk to you about what is unfortunately one of the most debilitating behavioral disorders in dogs, separation anxiety. You should have hope though, because even though it is life-altering for the dog and the dog's humans, it is able to be modified, usually to complete resolution, completely remedied, and your dog is feeling happy when alone. Some cases, yes, are a little more difficult than others, but we get there. So my name is Cece Bourgeois. I'm a certified separation anxiety trainer. I studied with Milena DiMartini, working on about 100 hours of intensive learning about separation anxiety, as well as how to modify it and help our clients. I've helped about 100 clients so far since taking the course and being certified. What I want to do today is two things. I want to clarify the difference between separation anxiety and isolation anxiety or distress, as well as bust a few myths. I only got a few minutes, so I'm going to drop this and I will give you more in another video. Separation anxiety is often the catchphrase, much like people refer to facial tissue as Kleenex, when in fact, separation anxiety is a clinical term for a dog imprinting to one person. Only that person will do. If they're without that individual person, then they cannot cope and they panic, or at least have some extreme stress and anxiety. Isolation distress, which is much more commonly seen, is that the dog does not want to be alone, yet can cope as long as they've got a familiar person with them. Usually in a familiar environment is what's most helpful. Sometimes they can even do this with other people that aren't their primary people outside of their home environment, say daycare, a friend's house, that kind of thing. So either way, they need to be modified very similarly, and we'll get into that in the next video. However, there are two different sorts, and certainly separation anxiety in its clinical term is much more difficult for the person involved with the dog because they cannot leave that dog with anyone else. So if you know someone who is suffering along with their dog from separation anxiety, please give them your support. Know that it's, on the myth busting front, not something their dog is going to grow out of or get over. There's no giving of affection that is going to exacerbate the problem. They can sleep in the bed. They can, if you want to, give them scraps from human food, whatever those anthropomorphic things are that you want to do with them. An actual study does show that this does not create nor make worse separation anxiety. Another myth bust would be locking them down in a stronger crate. Certainly anything like a shock collar, any of those types of more let's just make them not be able to get out of their zone they're supposed to stay in tactics help at all. In fact, they can quite often make it worse because we need to change the underlying perspective of the dog. They're still panicking, they're just more locked down. What other myth-busting things can I throw at you? I have tons of them. Your dog's not being stubborn, they're actually having a behavioral panic and anxiety. Feeding toys left before you leave is not a quick fix. It may help in some cases, but it's certainly not going to be a quick fix, and I'll get into that later. Either is playing soft music or exercising your dog before you leave. They can help, don't get me wrong, and we can incorporate those into a program, but you do need to actually do desensitizing for your dog to help them move past this. So I hope that's helpful for now. I'm gonna come back next time with a little bit of information about how we do this process. What is desensitizing? I hope this was helpful, get you started on some thinking. All right, thanks so much, have a good day.